trustees. The work session for GWA. For the record, those present are myself, Commissioner Dimchaco, Commissioner Sanchez, and Commissioner Santos. Commissioner Martinez is excused, but he's going to be joining us online on whenever he can. He's up there. He's online. Okay. So, Tom, I guess you're it. So, you want to start with the first resolution you want to?
Yes, good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. Resolution 7 FY24 relative to the adoption of the 2022 market update and strategic pay scale for Guam Water Works Authority. We actually discussed this in last month's meeting. If you'd like, we could still go over it again. And if
I think we discussed this last month, but there was also a communication that came in from Mike Carlson. And so therefore, we had asked the two attorneys to review it. So what I would like is, I know you guys folks have been very busy, but at Thursday's meeting, could you go through that with us, but also give us a written response to Mike Carlson so that we can see it. Okay? And then also give us your other thoughts, whatever you can by Thursday. Okay?
Survey, right?
Well, no, this is also the adoption to update to the percentile, and also for like a 5-year migration.
Right. I mean, which is
traditionally
what we do, right? I mean, we try to grow the pay scale to migrate it. Okay.
Movement every year, not huge movements. And that's the nice thing about it, as opposed to waiting 5 or 10 years and then we have a big movement. Any questions on this since we talked about last?
And the Mr. Chair's GPA will do this as well on
Yes,
the next. The goal is for both utilities to continue to use this process that we started up a while ago.
And then we'll take it up for action on the meeting on next Tuesday. Okay? Yes, and we'll do that. We'll do that at.
No, we definitely want to apply. Right, yeah.
Teresa, you want to say something?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So I apologize. We didn't understand that the commissioners wanted a written letter prepared, Mr. But we'll provide a write-up in response, a legal opinion, write a letter response on behalf of the CCU for your review and consideration, and we'll present that on Thursday.
Give that to us on Thursday. Let's go through it, and then. Okay.
And then the only question I had when I on this topic was, so we have some employees in both companies that are not on CTP, right?
Not at this time.
They're all on CTP?
Yeah.
So a cashier here is paid on a different pay scale than a cashier in GWA?
We have.
I thought we
a
limited
strategic pay scale,
CTPs.
and GovWam has.
Correct. But I thought certified technical professional was restricted. I thought we were the only entity that did not include all employees, whereas, so we pioneered this, right? We got it passed by Senator Brown and Klitsky, and we wanted to create a pay scale that we could attract and retain professionals, right? Recognizing that we're very unique among GovWam agencies. We're the only ones that do power, we're the only ones that do water, we're the only ones that have a wastewater operator or generator operator, right? So those technical professionals, we wanted to create a pay scale, but I don't recall, maybe it's probably my bad memory, but when we created that and we submitted it to the legislature, we said, these are the CTPs, everyone else, a cashier is a cashier, doing the same job at GovWam, and I thought we did not consider them to be certified technical professional as we defined it in our resolution. So so maybe on Thursday or when you brief us, I'm just curious, when did we move everyone? Because I thought that the cashiers would be on the GovWam pay scale and the generator operator or the wastewater operator 2, of which we have the only ones in GovWam, they're paid on a very different pay scale for obvious reasons. GovWam doesn't have a pay scale for water operator too. We created this pay scale by the law we got passed in the legislature to allow us to do this. And then everyone else copied us, but everyone else put everybody in it. I thought our original list didn't have everybody in it. So maybe you can brief us on when did we transition?
We'll provide the timeline, because the initial laws which gave the authority to govern and review recruitment for certified technical professionals was passed in 2006. And we will present on Thursday a law that included all employees who are and named all employees as certified technical professionals in 2018. And we'll discuss, of course, how the utilities evolve, the positions and the pay scales, and that's already included in the record in our history.
So our pay scale, when we review it and discuss it formally and finalize it, we'll be able to address all our employees. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And just as I remember back to 2018, what it was we did, and it was an attempt to, when they do the Allen Searle study, they look at water utilities and electric utilities, and they look at all the, including the non-technical. That he does a review of everybody in that utility group. And what I think the discussion we had back then is, we said we wanted to include the everybody in, because if we left them with the GovGuam pay group, their movement would be dependent on whenever the GovGuam pay group decided to move, which could take 10 years before they made
Or it could be
any
even
movement.
better.
Huh?
Or it could be 22% when
Yeah.
we don't do 22%.
Yeah, and that's the
Yeah.
thing. So I think the discussion, if I remember correctly, it revolves around a desire to do an orderly increment or an orderly move in pay, rather than going for long periods of time and then doing the 22%. And that way it was manageable. I can't remember the exact words, but that was the kind of the discussion that I remember. Okay? So give us more background. Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Tom, next
All right,
one.
Chairman, then we'll move on to the Resolution 19, FY 2024, relative to approval of indefinite quantity contract with JMI Edison and Frontier Supply, Inc. for submersible pumps and motors for GWA. The request for this resolution or this project is necessary to purchase pumps and motors to maintain and improve reliability of GWA's water production system. The project is to replenish the inventory of submersible pumps and motors for GWA deep wells to ensure adequate stock is available at all times to quickly bring wells back into service. The objective is to maintain critical inventory levels for pumps and motors at all times. I guess maybe to shorten up, we're simply just trying to establish a new contract for pumps and motors.
And this is a good thing because, GPA does that well too. They have an inventory of $20 million in parts and stuff, which is a good thing. So I think because we're so far out, lead time, always good to increase our inventory. Okay, any questions? No? Next one, Tom.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. On the next resolution, I'm going to have Chris, our AGM A&S, to present.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Resolution number 20-FY 2024 is a resolution to authorize GWA to petition the Public Utilities Commission for authorization to issue an RFP for comprehensive support services for applications and integration technologies utilized by Guam Water Works Authority, Guam Power Authority, Port Authority of Guam, and the Guam International Airport. So GWA is going to lead this procurement. It'll be a joint procurement between the four autonomous agencies for support services for JD Edwards, ERP software, and integration applications for all four. The initiative is necessary and urgent due to impending expiration of initial support contracts for these critical enterprise resource planning systems. GWA, GPA, and the Port Authority upgraded to JD Edwards Enterprise 1 in 2021. and that they include multiple integration points for GWA and GPA with other enterprise systems that we use in other parts of the business. And that underscores the need for this ongoing support to ensure smooth operation and maintenance of these business critical systems. The airport is still using the J.D. Edwards legacy system, and they're going to require an upgrade to E1 at some point in the future, and that is why they are wanting to also participate in this RFP. The project also aims to achieve continuous improvement by developing the E1 system and any other systems that integrate with it or will in the future. The joint RFP will select qualified vendors for all 4 organizations, and it seeks to leverage the buying power of all 4 of us to come up with the best deal for all the agencies. The project's extended contract, initially 5 years. It'll have a base contract of 5 years and extend for 5 additional 1-year periods. And the reason that we're wanting to do this is because the end of life for J.D. Edwards Enterprise 1 is 2035. So the 10 years will align and provide us continuity with the same vendor to give that support for the 10-year period. And of course, they're 1-year options, so we would have the option to not pick it up at any point. The scope of work covers 5 basic areas. First area is support troubleshooting for the back-end support, and this would be for Oracle Cloud infrastructure and also the servers and things that sit on that infrastructure. Second service would be application functional support. So that's for the end users. If there's any issues that they have, they would provide troubleshooting for that. And then there's application development support. And this is an area where by combining, we believe that we'll find a lot of efficiency. So what this allows us to do is to, if we find that there's a process within the E1 system that's maybe not as efficient as it could be, we can then go to the partner, ask them to help us develop a way to make that more efficient. And by doing so, we can split the cost of that and apply it to all 4 systems. So that's application development support is a big piece of why we want to all do this. And then managing negotiation and maximization of software agreements. So with GWA's last contract, we were able to achieve a lot of savings because the partner that we have it's a huge multinational tech company, and they do work for a lot of businesses in Asia Pac, including banks. And by doing so, they have better deals on software licensing, support, cloud credit technologies, things of that nature. So they can come in, they understand the complex licensing agreements. They can tell us, you should look at these combinations of things that'll save you money by doing this. So having that expertise to do that negotiation for us is critical. And then the last item is implementation of software upgrades and replacement. This is more for the airport since they're going to have to do an upgrade of their system, but also I believe the port is looking at replacing their terminal operating system. So that could also fall under this part of the contract. As far as GPA and GWA are concerned, we don't know that there would be any implementation or software upgrades that we would participate in. So for GWA, the initial 5-year cost on our existing contract, it was about $262,000 a year. So over a 5-year span, that exceeds the $1 million threshold, which is why we're asking to go to the PUC to get approval for this. We're hoping if the PUC approves it at the end of the month that we will issue the RFP in June of this year with a target date to issue the NTP in August of 2024. And this would be a revenue-funded project.
Questions?
Yeah. So Chris, I mean, how would that RFP look if each of the entities that are participating it have varying degrees of requirements? You know what I mean? Like you mentioned, the airport has, they're on the legacy software. They need to get to E1. That scope of work is very different than what GWA needs since they're already on E1. So how is the RFP going to be written to make sure that those cost burdens aren't put on GWA that are unnecessary, right?
So within the scope of work in the RFP, Each entity will be responsible for its own contract, so they would enter into a specific contract for services with whomever is selected. In the RFP, we talk about them providing us to think outside the box and be flexible with how they would do the pricing on the specific areas. So, for example, on the upgrade piece, that would probably be a direct bill to the airport. On the back-end support piece, they might have a ticketing system where you're charged on a per-ticket basis. So if you've got a bigger IT staff or more competence in specific areas, then you would need less tickets than somebody that might need, that doesn't have as big a staff or doesn't have the expertise. And so you would be charged on a per-ticket basis. So same rate, but it's based on frequency or quantity of use.
But who's got the contract management burden, the G&A, where does that fall? Is that in GWA's bucket?
So we would do the initial RFP, and then we would issue the notice to proceed, and then from there, the contracting would be on an individual agency basis. So the terms and conditions could be the same, but each group would enter into their own contract, and it might be nuanced depending on, the group and what they need.
I'm just trying to understand, so I get the scope, the individual, you can call them cleanse or, options, right? Or accessorial charges, but there still is going to be a general contract management. There's going to be a project team that's going to be required to manage all of the different, selection of, from each agency, what they want to do. How would that overhead be burdened? That's where I'm trying to understand, because it seems as though whoever whatever agency awards it is going to have that overhead and contract management burden. I get each of the airport are going to have their task-specific burdens, but I'm trying to figure out how are you going to apply that project management side to those, because you're going to need a team of people to manage everything, right?
So I think each group is going to have somebody within their organization to kind of handle the overarching our contract, right? And then we would meet regularly, I think, as a group on specific issues, especially the application development. And I think as a group, we would come to the decisions on that as far as what we wanted to move forward with. Now, we could share the burden of the project management. We'll take this one, you take that one. It really hasn't been determined yet, I think. So on the application development side, I think that one requires a lot more project management than, say, the application support or the back-end support. That's more of the IT folks dealing directly with the vendor. It's more the application development, the upgrade, and then, of course, the licensing and stuff that would need the project management. And I think, we would probably, GWA would probably take a lead role just to make sure that things continue to run smoothly, but I think that it would be a joint group effort, and it's yet to be determined, who would be responsible for what.
So you mentioned that the group that you're working with now has access to, they're a reseller of the licenses? Or is GWA purchasing the license directly with JD Edwards?
So when we entered into that contract, we purchased them, I believe the purchase was through the vendor, but they were, I think they're just a pass-through.
Reseller?
Yeah.
Just to be clear, 262 is GWA's charge?
Correct.
Do you have an idea what GP is going to be charging?
It'll probably be less. I think they have a lot more technical expertise, and I think they'll be able to manage their back end more so than us. And our track is, at least for GWA, is to align with GPA, try to bring on some more resources, get the similar training so that our groups can handle that back end support and rely less on the external vendor. So that's why, again, the 5-year base and then the 1-year option. So at some point we can scale back on how much we're using with the external vendor. And I think that would be the goal of all 4 operations.
So, I know we did this in 2021 together, and then where's our friends at Port? Are they new, or are they
No, they did upgrade to E1 in 2021 as
Same
well.
time as us,
They did.
Just the airport.
It's just the airport, still on the old system.
It's not $35 million, right?
Not even close.
That still doesn't work. It's okay to have 60,000 outstanding invoices. It's all right. We got it down to 30.
That's where the airport's at right now.
No, DOA. They jumped on that new system and they were behind by 60,000 invoices. Because he chose not to run parallel. And he said, it's all right, we're down to 30.
Well,
Half?
so,
Anyways, let's go.
yeah,
Yeah,
you know, it's a good job.
Yeah.
And the autonomous agencies, these are all four autonomous agencies. They have their act together. You know, it really shows, I think the biggest difference is the amount of computer technicians you have, computer skilled people that you have in GWA, GPA. That's where the key is. Airport and port. They, I don't know how far along they are. I don't know if they're up with us. Skill set. But you know, over time, maybe they'll get there. Okay? Okay, next.
And the next resolution, it's actually a joint resolution, but it's GWA's Resolution 21 FY 24 relative to authorizing management of, Guam Water Works Authority to award a contract for merchant banking services to petition the Public Utility Commission for approval. So if you needed anything to cover it, Tallinn, excuse me, top.
Yeah, is this, are we also establishing a new relationship with Bank of Hawaii? Or is that in here or no?
There's a separate resolution asking for a new bank account.
Okay.
But this particular resolution, I think GPA will handle tomorrow and more, I'm
Thursday.
sorry, in the work
Thursday.
session in more detail. But we are, there was an IFB, Bank of Hawaii was selected, and so because the amounts of money for the contract are,
Exceed the threshold.
right,
We're
we're
sending
at,
it to PUC.
yes, yes, sir.
Got it. Any questions? Sure, Commissioner Santos.
Tell me that, I mean, I looked at our financials, we have a Bank of Hawaii account. Why did we require us to open another one?
For the,
Just specifically for merchant banking? Is that
Right.
what you're asking us to do?
for the next resolution,
Yeah.
the next resolution, I'm asking if we could set up a separate or a new bank account at Bank of Hawaii, and that's to help us with the reconciliation. So right now, we have one bank account, in which all of the credit card transactions go, and staff has asked if we could have two separate accounts, one for the online transactions and one for the walk-up transactions, and that just would help us more efficiently reconcile payments to the customer accounts.
I didn't see.
Okay, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead.
No, I was just following the trend, but Mr. Chairman, what is the minimum deposit requirement? It's not listed on the bank account.
Right, so my understanding is that the fees are about $100 a month or less. We've been trying to work with the bank to drill down on what the fees are, but there's continuing movement through the account, so,
Tell me, they need a deposit, how much they want.
right. I don't have that at the moment, but I can confirm.
Judge,
$1,000,
We-
is it $1 million? I mean, you could just tell me off the top of your head. I think 50% of our customers now pay online, right? At least, so how much is that on a monthly basis?
Right.
I'm just curious, I mean, banks, yeah, I mean, they, and, I hope that the deposit account that you're asking for is interest bearing on our part and not just for us to keep money in the bank and.
So, right, so what happens with the money is once it's, it flows right into the trustee account, so it doesn't sit for
You
very
know the
long.
math, just
Right.
make sure it's in the best interest of our
Okay.
educators. Just don't want money sitting in the bank.
I understand,
Not drawing interest, right? It's-
right,
I don't care about how long the float takes. They know how to make money in our money. That's
Yes.
why the bank learn.
but I'll confirm, I don't think we were looking at an interest-bearing account, but I'll confirm that
No,
and
you're
I'll
not
confirm.
required to have an interest-bearing account. Come on, Tony. This is, I mean, it's not, obviously GPA is gonna be larger, because they're, depositors, but still, it's at the end of the day, it's a ratepayer fund, so please give them something for having that money sit there. 'Cause they're gonna make, I mean, this new merchant agreement, was it a better deal than what we had before? Please, be nice to know what.
So if you recall, Bank of Hawaii was our original,
Right, then we.
and then we moved to First Hawaiian.
Yeah.
And then we had some issues with First Hawaiian. They couldn't quite, live up to the, expectations, and so we rebid it, and now it's back at Bank of Hawaii, and my understanding is it's similar terms to the original contract.
And who's gonna explain that to us, John Kent?
Yeah.
Okay. That's fine, Commissioner. We'll wait to do.
First, okay. The next one, we jumped to.
Right.
Yeah,
And
so,
I'll get you information about
Yeah.
minimum deposits and
Yeah.
interest-bearing
Because
accounts.
I can't imagine they're gonna be the same as Bank of, I'm sorry, your sister company.
Right, they'll have some, their
Right.
issues are higher.
all right, so Resolution 22 FY '24 relative to authorize the Guam Waters Authority to establish a bank account with Bank of Hawaii.
Just went through that.
Yeah, right, so I just want to
Go to
go
the
through the
next one.
motions, right? For the next resolution,
23.
23 FY '24, relative to approval of year 4 and 5 task orders for the water loss control professional services contract. I'm going to ask Jeanette, our AGME, to present.
This is relatively, in 2021, GWA had entered into a contract with WSO, Water Systems Optimization, for a contract term of 3 years with 2 additional 1-year terms. Now we are requesting your approval for those 2 1-year options, year 4 and year 5. An amount for year 1, we're asking an amount of, for both years, an amount of $402,774.
For which years?
For year 4 and 5, the 2 1-year options.
Year
So
five
the
shows-
contract will expire, the 2 years that we're asking for is the 2 1-year options. Because the contract term when GWA entered into an agreement with GWA was for 3 years with 2 1-year options.
Year 5 shows 441,000 though.
I'm sorry, year 4 is 401,724, and then year 5, my apologies, is $441,896.40.
So what was year 3?
Year 3 was approximately,
Did it go up 10% every year?
it does have a 10%
Escalation.
escalation every year as part of their contract when we entered into it in 2021.
So has there been any ROI on the first 3 years, ROI analysis? So you spent X amount of dollars on the service. Have you quantified the water loss mitigation?
So, I mean, I can give you a quick summary of what has been accomplished to date. So there are, out of 36 DMAs, there are 21 DMAs that we're currently measuring flows. I have here. Of that, we have, as of year to date, we have repaired approximately 349 leak detections. 47 of them were on our distribution main. And we still did uncover some illegal water connections, approximately 25 of them. We have leaks detections in our valves and our hydrants as well. So in total repair overall, because we do have meter leaks and defective meters, et cetera, that the WSO was able to identify along with the operations team and the leak detection, total overall is about 606 leak detections that has been uncovered to date since we started. So it's a very effective program. We anticipate we're just in the midst of completing pressure zone realignment phase 1 by next month. We are already out to bid for pressure zone phase 2. It's currently in procurement. And by the end of the year, we'll also be in procurement for additional district meter areas. So along with hopefully with the approval of the rate plan and the replacement of all our aging infrastructure and our water line systems, you will see a drastic improvement on our water loss program.
So, I mean, I'm
So
sorry,
just-
may I add, so, you know, the WSO or eSource works hand in hand with our leak detection, our pressure line unit team, our leak detection team. And it's all about data, right? So they constantly pull data from the customer service and compare it to the established DMAs. And I mean, it does occur a month later, but then it sort of focuses our leak detection guys, you know, to where the data shows something happened in a particular area. And you know, like Jeanette was saying, you know, with their direction and I guess training, it's allowing our guys to hone in on areas quicker than, you know, until it breaks and exposes itself. You know, sometimes we find them before it even exposes itself. So the rate of return, I mean, definitely the 600 plus, that was part of WSOs and our leak detection teams. I think we're in a good track. I mean, the hardest DMA to establish is the one in Tamuning, Barragata, right? Tumon. And so I mean, that's where the biggest, the most accounts we have anyway, Dedadu. And so once we get to that, I think we'll definitely start seeing even more.
So I'm just asking for that to quantify. So you quantified the number of leaks, right? What is the dollar value associated with the water loss? I just want to see what. Yeah.
Sure, we'll come back and
We
give
just
you
want to
that
know what that
information.
return on that investment in the contract is. If we're spending $400,000 a year, are we saving at least $400,000 in water loss?
Good
I
question.
mean, that's, if you look at it, it's 402 and 10% and so forth. So for the first 3 years, the math is 1.2 million. What was our actual revenue gain, if anything, right?
Got it.
We get the part about why this works. And just for the record, colleagues, I want to share with you that Tulane and Miguel did a fantastic job presenting to the investors and the bondholders. But I will tell you that this particular issue came up every single time. What are you doing about water loss?
Non-revenue.
And it's a conflict. Tulane, am I correct? It's like almost a forever question like PFAS. They just want to know how are we doing with our revenue. And telling them, you know, through actually this particular DMA stuff. And I guess in their language, they understood that, and they said that's good.
So really, I mean, I totally agree with my colleagues on the question. So yeah, we know that they're getting 10% more. We're trying to just figure out what are we getting back in return. I mean, water loss is one of the chronic diseases of all water systems. But are we gaining, right? I mean, we've been worried about this. This is why we embarked on this journey, and we know what it costs us. But I look forward to seeing, you know, the assumption is when you fix leaks, you begin to shrink water loss, right? And so I look forward to what have we discovered with these folks that now want us to continue to pay them 10% more. We know what our revenue loss is to them. We need to know if we're getting back any revenue on the water savings.
And these CIPs are going to have like long-term impacts, right? So it's those you're going to see the benefits at the DMAs every time, right? You see water flow that shouldn't be there. You go out and try and identify it. That's the whole idea of establishing the DMA. So you may not have got the cost savings in year 1, but when will that ROI happen? Is it year 5? You know, from those DMAs. So you can, you know, the 600 leaks that you fix may not have resulted in the same savings that you spent on the consultant for that year, but it might in year 3 or year 4, whatever that number is.
Correct.
That's what we want to.
And so that's why I just want to make sure I understand the question, because I think the question is more related to dollar value, correct?
Yeah.
Between the time that we have engaged on this water loss program.
Yes.
Can I offer something? So one of the things, you know, and Tom or Jeanette can correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the things that we found is that we have been able to identify the leaks and fix them, but because the pipes are so old, what generally happens is a leak ends up. So the loss is the recovery of the loss is sustained for a bit, but what happens is further down the pipe, it because of the aging infrastructure, another leak occurs. So we fix that, and then another. So the reason why I think in the 5-year CIP plan that we identified pipe replacement as a priority is so that we can sustain, you know, fixing those leaks and reducing the water loss.
I think the other thing I'd like to point out is this helps them identify the leaks areas, but I think, doesn't it also prioritize, you're eventually going to start replacing pipes, right? Isn't this also one of
Yes.
the ways that you're going to be identifying the
And
priority areas and say,
Yes.
we have a lot of problems in this area, let's start with this line, let's start replacing the line here. So I think you're not really going to see, you're going to see some really big improvements once all this, your other DMAs and
Yeah.
whatever else is put in place. Then you'll be able to start mapping out. You know, I think the number's like $133 million projected to be spent on water line replacement. And so this will help you identify where that $130 million starts to go first.
Right.
Okay? Instead of just going one village, this village, you're going to identify your high areas. And that's the other benefit. So it may not show up right away, but over time, I think, and in conjunction with the, what do you call those, and the other programs.
Pressure zone.
Huh?
Pressure zones and
Pressure
DMAs.
zones, realignment, and all that, in conjunction with all of that, you're gonna see that, you know, when we start to identify, we're in that first 133 million. It's not going to all be spent in 1 year, but, you know, the program that you're gonna set out, this is gonna guide you. Okay?
Yeah, because you have to remember, as the chair said, that we haven't data logged any information, so this is the first time that we're getting it. So we will strive to see if we can get a rate of return by dollar amount, but it's more about us getting the information, as the chair has mentioned, so that we can prioritize the capital improvement areas. So for example, we got an information even on leak repair size reports. You know, the eSource indicated that of the 350 leak repairs on our lines, 260 of them are on 2-inch. And as you know, we don't know we have a certain idea where our 2-inches are, but most of them are discovered when we're replacing the lines, because when you shut it down, that's when we get calls that they have no water, operations gets calls, and so that's when we know, and so we start to data log it, right? And so just want to let you know that this is the amount of information we have to date, and it's quite impressive compared to what, you know, not knowing that 3 years ago. Correct.
Yeah, we'd see a leak and we fix it, and then we see another leak and we fix it. But what we need to know is, where are the lines that leak the most? And so we can start making those replacements. Okay?
So let me read verbatim, since our GM is, I guess he's on the line.
He's watching.
This is statement, yield won't move and savings won't materialize until we start fixing pipes. Next statement, the benefits from GMAs now is the data that supports the decision making to replace pipes, which she just confirmed. Next one is we have a cost per kgal calculated in every annual water audit, but the savings of that cost won't materialize again until we replace pipes. The economic level of leakage and cost justification was detailed in the analytical study, and the cost is $200 million. So I guess it's online. Thank you, Miguel. All right, next.
Next one?
All right, so Commissioners, those are that was the last resolution. We can surely go into the reports if you like.
Attorney? Yeah. Yeah, you have prepared a request to go into executive session, right? Okay, so, can I have a motion to rise up out of open session and go into executive session? Second? Second, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay.
No, I'm staying until this, but how are we gonna do executive session? Are we getting on another meeting? Or is it just gonna do it via phone?
Motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn? Second? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposing nay, motion carries. We're adjourned.